In what fucking universe, if a jungler played bad on any other team, would he be like, I don't know if the coach is telling him to play bad or whether he's just doing this of his own choice. Like, you are aware, Max Law, like his family aren't like tied up in the basement, with a fucking bomb strapped to their head. And then they're like, every time you don't int, the bomb gets 1 minute closer to detonate. Law, what are you talking about? What sort of absurd speculation is that? Why okay. Just go ahead and stop being a pussy. He's not a good jungler.
The draft.
He's not a good jungler.
I don't know. Their draft looks so fucking bad whenever they play with Max Law. Why would you ever run LE Syndra?
Right, this is going to be episode 67 of Listen Loco. And we'll just skip all the banter at the beginning and just say the guest is Upset, who is that guy who left clicks and then right clicks in the bottom lane while Schalke 04 lose games. And then at the end he goes, oh, well, we'll get him next time. Maybe I have to get... Sorry, guys. In some ways it was my fault. Next time I'll try and get 2 pentakills before we lose the game. And then they all just go, well... Win as a team, lose as a team. You know what? I wish you'd play the mid lane better, even though you're the AD carry, but I guess that's fine. So let's just pretend everything's okay. Oh, what's that? Oh, apparently because we lost that game, Reckless is the best AD carry in Europe. Oh, well, my mistake. So then, that's like a normal LEC day for him. So, no, anyway, we're going to talk about a bit of LEC. Actually, hopefully a lot of LEC, because I'd rather not talk about Rift Rivals. But whatever, we'll talk about that to some degree, because we are known to do things like talk about
it's
things
kind of the part
of
LEC anyways, I guess, if we talk about the European teams at Rift Rivals.
To some degree. Like, you have to realise, Upset, this actually is, like, everyone always misses when it's like they didn't make the prediction that came true. People don't realise we now live in the era of Veteran. Because you have to understand, right? Veteran's entire shtick from day one was I only watch Europe. I don't watch China. I don't watch Korea. I don't care. Like, they're not as good, Well, the problem is, in the past, some naive fool, like a Locodoco-esque figure, could have said, like, that's a bit ignorant, isn't it? Like, you've got to watch Korea. They're the best. And, like LCS were pretty good as well. Cloud9. Always mention Cloud9, by the way. Never mention TSM in the context of international. No, Cloud9, they're pretty good, aren't they? Like, never mention they're like the 3rd best team from NA every year. But then you all keep trying to bandwagon the 3rd best team and say they're never understood that myself. Sort of seemed like cherry picking there. But anyway, someone like that would obviously just say to Veteran, like, it's ignorant to just only cover one region. Where now, I want to know this. Why haven't all of you just gone 100% all in on EU? It's literally the world champion region. Every person right now watching LCK is a bitch if they don't watch LEC. You obviously don't care about watching the top League of Legends. Remember, I used to say it myself, Loco, so I'm being fair here. I always used to tell people, I get it if you only like TSM or you only want to watch people who you play on solo queue. I get that, right, if you're an NA fan. But if you're someone who does say you want to watch the best League of Legends, I always used to say you should watch LCK. If you don't, I don't believe you actually want to watch the best games. Well, by the same logic, where is everyone on that LEC stream? I want to see 1 million concurrents on that stream. Everyone in China calling you out as well. Your region's not as good. You are losing to Team Liquid. You are losing best of 5 series to Team Liquid with your greatest ever teams. Maybe you should watch LEC and learn how this game is played. It can be a beautiful game when it's played correctly. At the moment, you are just losing to North Americans. There's nothing beautiful about that. You are literally losing the real world League of Legends tournaments right at the time when you're trying to win a trade war with America. If you can't even win in games, do you not know what the Soviets did with chess? Why do you think they invested so much? They understood the parallels between the game and the world. Game is life. All I'm saying is watch LEC if you want America to be a free sovereign state going forwards, or if you want it to lose to the Chinese tech companies, then you just go ahead and watch NA, watch LCS. Right, that is the greatest advert anyone's ever done for the LEC, and also one of the only ones that could never be featured on any broadcast other than ours. So let's start this discussion. So Upset, come on, right, we'll do this thing first where I'll go ahead and give everyone a spoiler. It's like in The Wizard of Oz when you see that little guy behind the curtain. It's like, no, it wasn't really just a little guy just talking shit. But I'll give you the spoiler version of that, right? This is the 20 minutes of the show where we talk to you about your team, and then Loco like awkwardly pretends like some of the players in your team are all the best in Europe and stuff, and like coaching's all just brilliant and stuff, and probably even says some sort of a mad lie at some point in time, like implies that his friend David Lim didn't in any way fuck your team by being a dog shit coach. Wow. So that's going to be the first 20 minutes or so. What I'll do during those 20 minutes, by the way, is I'll try and ask like, real questions, and I'll give you a chance to explain yourself, maybe give you a chance to lie about some of your teammates, but I'll push back a little bit, at times. Okay. And then towards the end, Loco will just randomly ask you things like, what do you think about Perkz? What about retro? And then you'll just give an opinion, and then we'll move on to Rift Finals. So now that we're all clear on the tracks that this trade is definitely going along, let's go ahead and have the discussion. So give us the first thoughts, right? So Upset, obviously, as I alluded to with my joke in the intro there, in the spring split, I have to imagine it must have been frustrating in the position that you were in, because a lot of people had you as one of the best AD carries in Europe. Obviously, as I joked, you literally did get a pentakill in a game that you lost, but your team didn't make the playoffs. Like at the end, it slid out. You didn't get even the chance to compete for the championship. Like, presumably,
the playoffs, so.
Yeah, exactly. So presumably, you think you're one of the better players at AD carry in Europe, right?
Yeah, better or the best. I mean, I was the best AD carry last summer split. And I don't really I think I have improved actually, and I have a lot of qualities that I evolved. So I wouldn't really think that any players better than me on AD carry, but obviously maybe better. Other players are working better in other teams, or they have different resources to play with. So yeah.
Was it frustrating though then, if you are someone who you think to yourself my game's at a good level? Is it frustrating when the team issues or whatever? It doesn't have to be players specifically. It could just be the style was wrong, the coaching was the wrong approach, whatever it might be. Was it a frustrating spring split for you rather?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think, even the last summer split where we lost in the end in the final, it was still super frustrating. If you don't win the championship or you don't even make playoffs, it's obviously really frustrating if you put everything into playing the game and you show up every day and you try your best and then you don't get the results you expect or you want at least. Yeah, it's really, really boring then, or really frustrating, yeah.
Right, Loco, just so we can get this set up right, we'll do our old 1-2 act. So this is where you ask him something so what do you think about Abadage? He's a new guy to the LCS, a lot of people think he could be... Go on, do that version. Ask him about his...
Wait, no, I was going to say...
I'll ask you.
I was going to say something else about Upset in Spring.
All right, go on.
So Upset in Spring, I think it was week 2 or week 3, where we talked briefly on Twitter, where we're yeah, I want you on the show. And Upset's yeah, I'll go on the show. Right now, things are a little bit bad with the team, but once things start clicking and things start doing well, I'll come on the show. And then... That
was when Bjergsen kept telling me over and over again, something I won't say what belong. Basically, it may as well have been when I do well at Worlds are common, and I'm just fucking pops waiting.
It's kind of a bitch move, but on the other hand, you have to think what's best for your team, right? And what benefits the team most. And if people are struggling mentally or on a downward spiral, there's no point of me going on a talk show and telling everyone what problems we have and why we're losing. And I obviously don't want to look bad too. And just say yeah, I'm the problem, guys. Because that's not how I see things, right? So.
But this was at
the best time.
But this was at a point where Schalke started really well, and then they just did bad that week. So I was okay, he's probably going to come in a week or so. And they just kept doing badly and badly.
To be fair, I even when we were 7-2 or 6-1, 6-0, no 6-5-1, I think, I never thought we were really insane. I thought we had fine fundamentals at the stuff we were doing, because we were playing mostly kill mid jungle setups, and me and Igna were playing Kai'Sa, Ezreal, and the champs he likes to play. And then we were top lane was mostly AP carries, I guess. And we had a lot of success because enemy team was inting a lot on mid, and they just die to every gank. When you play Liz Camille, you just have to run it down. But then Camille got nerfed. People figured out we play a lot of Lissandra, and we didn't have too much confidence yet on other champs, I would say. And then people were playing comps against it, there was some Swain that gave us some trouble, or they just knew how we played. And if people don't int then, and we don't have an evolved way to play around other lanes, and the game's just even, it's not our mid jungle had insane macro at the time and knew how to snowball a lead, even if the enemy's not dying and just giving up the push, for example, or especially if the matchup was not super good. Actually fighting 2v2 mid for us was often we would die, I think. And yeah, we just had bad objective play and bad pressure play without actually physically killing the enemy champion. Which led to a lot of problems.
That's a nice way of saying we didn't have a mid and jungle in Spring Split, because that's what it felt like. There was just a black hole in mid and jungle. Anytime a 2v2 happened, anytime you guys needed priority, I felt you guys had nothing from mid and jungle. Yeah,
Memento's good at some stuff, right? He he is like good at getting early leads. I think when he's like fighting the enemy jungle 1v1, for example, he's pretty good at this and like invading. And he is like just good mechanically on a lot of champs, I think. But when it comes to like at this point playing the game like properly, or however you want to call it, like around pressure and around moving and playing for objectives, like as a 2v2 mid lane, we definitely had issues. And I think he would have needed a different mid laner that had like more experience and could lead him. But on the other hand, like Abe obviously was a rookie, and he really needed it more to have like somebody with experience to guide him. And both their personalities are not like really decisive. Like no one really took the leadership in the mid 2v2 jungle, which is quite important. And yeah, it was just like, you can't say it black hole, but you also have to see like we won 9 games. We went like 9-9, right? So some games, what they did was good and they got some kills. But late on the split, I think when teams figured it out and when we even lost like confidence on what we were playing, and then the meta changed as well, it was just like a train wreck. It felt like we were actually the worst team probably in the league, even though for most of it, it looked like we were quite good and we could at least play one thing well.
Okay. Right, when Abedage came into your team, since he is, as you say, a rookie, and that's one of the positions, if you look at the team over the split, that people criticised was mid lane. As you say, it's mainly mid lane jungle. I think actually not even necessarily purely just on performance. It's just that, to be fair, like Odoamne has a very good rep, obviously, over his career. You have a good rep as a rising talent. Ignat, obviously, people remember fondly from the olden days. So I think it's obvious already that people would be scrutinising the newer guys. Like, from what you were saying there, when he came into the team, was Abedage like a little bit... was he someone who needed like his confidence built up? Was he a little bit concerned about how he'd fit into the squad or something? Like one of the issues is when you look at like even the champion picks, it looked like by the end of the split, he was just stuck on like 2 or 3 picks only, and that's all he was going to play. Now that does mean the player can only play that, or it means that's all he's comfortable playing, and he's someone that has to, everything has to be just the way he feels comfy with.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously like multiple reasons to this. For example, the way we were thinking about the game from coaching staff perspective was quite flawed at some point, because we were like still kind of playing Season 8 Worlds Meta, where we just like tried to gank mid at every level with Lissandra, but other teams were like already playing Sejuani and like playing through side lanes as well and stuff. I mean, this is like one problem. The way we approached meta, I think, was quite bad. And Aber, yeah, I mean, if you're a rookie and you come in the LEC, you probably get your confidence on stage, like what you're comfortable playing from stage games. Because it doesn't matter, like if you play a lot of solo queue, if you fail with something on stage, you probably will like feel uncomfortable playing it again on stage if you don't have much experience. So yeah, I think it got to a point where it was like quite bad, and the champs he was good at, he wasn't that comfortable on, and the champs like we were playing that was comfortable on, it didn't really work anymore because we were like playing the same thing a lot. But on the other hand, also, it doesn't really matter if you're like really comfortable on a champ and you know how to play it well mechanically or anything, if you lack like knowledge of how to play the game, or if you can't translate your knowledge to stage games. So yeah, I mean, he had like a kind of rough spring split, and I think he was like quite nervous in a lot of games where he like just died when he gets ganked when he's playing Lissandra. It's like impossible to die kind of, but he just had some hiccups. But now it's like definitely going better, I think. Trick is like helping him quite a lot. Just, I mean, they review like games every day pretty much, and he's like learning much more fundamentals, so I can see on stage as well. Like sometimes we don't push the waves that we should push, and we lack a bit of pressure on, like especially playing side lane later on, but we're working on it. But overall, it's like we barely lost any heralds or dragons. We're playing like well early game, objective game at least, even though we don't make like insane plays like other teams.
Yeah,
like G2. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, I remember watching the spring split, and I just kept thinking, always was a fan of that Nuke dog. He's a fucking brilliant player, and he plays so many champions. Just somehow can always take care of his own. I don't know why, because it's weird. He wasn't even on the team. I just kept thinking that over and over again. But anyway, I get what you mean. I mean, you said there, like obviously some of the coaching wasn't perfect. To be fair, you had a fairly limited coach. Oh, sorry, limited. Sorry, I said limited. That doesn't make sense there. You had a limited coaching approach. It wasn't really that good. But luckily, now that particular virus has infected Excel. So at this point in time, we can now actually, I found a way we can solve the whole problem. If we could just form sort of like a protective zone, people in hazmat suits around Excel, and we're going to just like jettison them into orbit with all their coaching staff and players, and then once they're further enough away from the Earth, we're going to fire a nuclear missile at it, and then it'll all be done. And we'll just bring in a new team with proper VC, some good players. Maybe leader can be on the squad. We can get I can fix the whole thing for next year, LEC. All you have to do is let me get rid of one team in that particular win.
Upset.
One team. That's all I ask is one team.
Yeah, sounds fair, I guess.
Something I wanted to ask about Spring Split is you guys put Amazing on your roster at a certain point. Like he stopped being like coach for academy team to be on your roster. Was that ever going to happen? Was Amazing actually going to play? Because he seemed he's one of the better players on 100 Ps.
I mean, I'm not sure how much. I mean, I guess it's whatever. Like, yeah, he was playing like a few scrims, and the thing it's like you don't like. We didn't really want to play with him, but if like stuff keeps going like this and we lack like leadership and stuff, and it was kind of Sejuani meta already, then maybe we should like bring him in because at least he's like kind of has a good idea. Like a basic good idea how to play the game as mid jungle because he just has so much experience and he kind of knows what to do. But obviously he has his downsides too, and champion pool stuff could be an issue in this meta because people were still playing a lot of carries. And but we were considering it. But you also have to think like, imagine it was like in the last week I think where we had the opportunity to play with him. We lose the first game and it was actually versus a good team, and then we still, like, if we win the next game, we would go playoffs. But and it was like versus the worst team. Actually, we beat Rogue, but it was like a shaky win. So if we bench Memento then for Amazing, and we still have to play playoffs, it would be like, Memento would probably be like out completely of it, right? Because the mental damage would be too much. Sure. If he like has a bad game versus, I think it was Origen, and it wasn't like necessarily his fault that we lost this game because it was like something with a early gank on top and then the TP advantage, and then we still made a play bot because there was like a lack in communication of the TP, and then we just died. So it would be like really risky to put in Amazing because we don't even know if it works, right? He was like playing one game per day in scrims and he was like coaching the academy at the same time. So yeah, we were considering it, but in the end we stuck to Memento.
Okay, that would have been a fun timeline. Oh, Duncan.
Yeah. I mean, it's always fun to play with Amazing, at least. He's quite a personality.
Yeah. Duncan, when Upset mentioned the coaching staff, like, coaching staff had, like, kind of wrong views on meta, like, we were still playing, like, World Season 8. I was thinking back, holy shit, Spring Schalke had both my former assistant coaches, and Dylan Falco and David Lim. I'm surprised.
You taught them well, I guess.
Oh my God.
No, here's the thing. Upset, that's the problem. No, that's the problem. You take it the wrong way. Everyone wants to flame Loco by being like, these guys were under you. It's like, don't get me wrong, Loco probably a trash actual like teacher, But if anything, that shows that Loco actually must have been half decent because everyone else around him is absolute death when they go and touch any other team. Like, no.
Yeah, I'm Bill Belichick.
Yeah, Loco's like the training weights.
Exactly, yeah.
Once you work with him, you're just like, Dylan Insta goes Worlds Finals, it just takes off. Yeah.
Wow, I see how it is. Holy shit.
No, but I mean, also not to put like all the blame on like coaching staff, because obviously it's also like how players play on stage is still probably the most important thing, right? So if you don't manage to execute on stage, or you don't manage to play with confidence and play like you know what you can do and you do it, it's not like coachable. It's something that has to come out of yourself and out of the experience you get.
Okay. Right, I want to ask you this, because I noticed that there actually isn't very much interesting discussion I've heard about Ignar since he came back and was playing on your team, Schalke, not playing obviously with the Misfits guys from before, because there only seems to be two discussions that happen. There's either people who just still romantically think Ignar every game is like the fucking SK Telecom series from like 2 years ago now. So they either praise him to the heavens and he's just a great support player, or the only person I've actually heard criticize him really is like people like Veteran, Kelsey, people I've had on my shows, where their main criticism is just that he has like, they think he has a bit of a one-dimensional playing style. Like he just has to play those like engage, pick supports. That's all he's going to play if he can. If that's in the meta, brilliant. He could be one of the best supports. If it's not in the meta, he's probably going to do that anyway. Right? As somebody who's actually learned with him now for a while, what's he like as a player? Like what's his mentality? What do you think his strengths and his weaknesses are?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has quite a good champion pool right now. I think, I mean, I enjoy playing with him. He's quite easy to work with. I think we are like, it's quite easy to discuss with him, because before I was playing like with Vanda, and everything we fought like over like a lot. Maybe some like forgiven stuff dripped into his brain, and he just wanted to like fight a bit. But Igna, I mean, I really liked playing with Vanda too. But Igna, yeah, I mean, I think his strengths are like for sure engage champs. I think he's like decent on lane, like quite good actually. He's really good at hook champs, but he's not necessarily bad at the range stuff. I think. I mean, he's like fine, but maybe the teams he was in, he was like needed to be the engage, because even in Misfits, I felt like they kind of relied on him playing these kind of champs.
Yeah. You can see now.
Like in Schalke, like we didn't have like a Caps, for example, that can just do something out of nowhere and suddenly a big fight starts and you just like get going, right? We needed like more structured approach to the game, and Igna's like good at engaging, and support is like a good role to have an engage on. So yeah, why not let him play these champs? I think he's good at them, and yeah, not like if he was on G2, I'm sure he could play like Lux easily and do really well too. But definitely his strengths are like engage champs, yeah. But his weaknesses are maybe like, I mean, it's not like he doesn't communicate. He communicates like fine, but I could see like other support players probably doing more in terms of communication, or like picking up other people to like make proactive plays more, like picking up your jungle and doing something like, or talking to the mid lane, like this kind of stuff. I think could be like more developed, I guess. But also he is Korean after all, and it's like harder for him to communicate than for other players, especially like after games. Exactly explaining like specific situations, what he would want people to do is like not super easy. Not saying his English is bad, but it's just like how it is, I think, if you are like not really proficient at English.
Okay. Right. Being as obviously we will talk about most of the top teams, we can do that in a minute, but let's just do the position discussion for a moment.
When he mentioned Forgiven, there's the Forgiven thing that... Wait, you tweeted about it too. The Forgiven getting his support take, not his support. What is it? His ability to...
No, his ability to report someone. Actually, I do queued with him yesterday, and he was like asking me to report people because he couldn't do it anymore.
Duncan,
really funny.
Could you set that up for people that haven't seen the tweet yet?
Basically, he just submitted a bunch of support tickets reporting people who he thought, I assume, had entered in the game or were griefing or something, and he basically posted a screenshot where someone whoever the people are who accept those support tickets, basically just said like, I'm going to restrict your access to doing this now, and did it in like a tone as if like, you know, you'd abused the system or something.
I mean,
you know, and so the implication was, I mean, who knows? I can't say if it's not true. The implication was that he was abusing the system and that these weren't like legitimate reports. Now, the reason why I found that kind of fucking insane is because, remember, when Riot officially used to ban people with those competitive rulings, one of which affected Forgiven and literally banned him before the split had ended. And so his team, Gambit Gaming, if you remember in Season 5, got completely like railroaded. They had no chance of making playoffs. They didn't make Worlds as a result, right? The basis for doing that was the reports of other users on Forgiven. Now, if you've ever seen those rulings, one thing they often do is, and they don't do it very often now, I've noticed, but it used to be the prime thing in Season 4 and Season 5. When they said that you'd been like banned because of reports, they would often try and show off by showing a stat. Like they'd say, you know, in 80% of games he was reported. Right, here's the problem with that. That doesn't include false reports. That doesn't include people reporting you just because they're mad and they're fucking steaming and they just put a report in and you ignore it. So that means that basically Riot attempted to disingenuously use a total stat of reports to imply, well, you know, if 80-90% of people are reporting him, he must be being a cunt, right, guys? Got to kick him out the game. But then when he tried to use their own system, what they want you to do, they don't want you to respond in a toxic way to people being toxic. They want you to just report them and they'll take care of it, right? When he did that, they've now basically punished him for doing that. Cool. Yeah. Sounds like a great system you've got there, guys.
I mean, to be honest, like, this whole report system is kind of fucked up anyways, because like even recently or like a few months ago, I was playing in a game and I was like inting a bit, but I got like Camille level 2 ganked and stuff. And enemy team had like script us or like known inters on Europe West, and they like all reported me at the same time, and I probably got a few, and like I got a ban instantly, for example. But people that like always int and stuff, like the line of when somebody's like actually inting or griefing and when not is so hard to decide, I think. So I'm not sure. And also, he does report a lot of people, but Season 9 solo queue right now in Europe West especially, where they like fuck the MMR of everyone and then they reset the ladder again, is like so fucking terrible. Like I would report, like if I would care enough to report people every game, I could report like at least 3 players every game in my games, because there's so many like Season 8 Diamond players in my teams.
Yes. Yeah, that's also the other part, right? Is it like there's another problem? It's a real. What I'm about to say now, I'm not saying actually just to be like rude to bad players, but if you are a Masters tier player and you are matched with real LCS pro level players in solo queue, you basically may as well be inting. Like you might actually be playing your best, but you may as well be inting if like you're in the wrong position on the wrong like setup of 5 players. Like you could just be fucking the whole game for your team.
But even main role, it's like a diamond player, Season 8 diamond player in like a high challenger game, like if he plays versus like a real like decent jungler, he will just get like so murdered, and it really fucks the whole game. And there's like really, it's so frustrating, right? Because you, especially a person like Forgiven, obviously will like try his best every game, and if he's like actually set himself a goal to get elo or something and he wants to get rank 1, and then this happens every game to him where you're just like helpless because the matchmaking is so bad and Riot is like clueless how to fix it, and then you don't even flame them and stuff, and then the last resort is like reporting them, and then they even take this away from you. It seems like, just a messed up situation.
What do you think, Loco?
As a diamond player, my opinion as a diamond player, well, I've never played an EU solo queue. I guess I played like on the Riot Given accounts when we were there for Worlds, but it seems like everyone just hates their solo queue. Dom like complains about NA solo queue, and then he was talking about how better EU West solo queue was, and he's like, yeah, people actually try hard in the EU. And then now when Upset's talking about European solo queue, it seems like Upset also thinks European solo queue is garbage, so everyone just hates their own solo queue.
I mean, it's not garbage, just the players are garbage that you get matched with. Like, if I would have like full challenger games, I mean, even if you have a full challenger game, somebody, like 1 out of 5 games is probably like really, really fucking reportable, right? But now these players, like, it's also fucked up for them because like they will get perma-flamed by like good players because they're obviously ruining the game, so they're not really enjoying it that much either, and they're like just inting, and it's just like that's the whole problem of bad matchmaking, right? It's a bad situation for everyone, and no one can like really do much about it.
Unfortunately, the main issue here, this is why actually this will all tie back in, Loco, to the whole reporting issue. The main issue here, right, is that to my knowledge, League of Legends is the only game I am aware of where people who are top pros have to play with randoms from the public in order to complete their practice. Like just scrimming against other teams alone isn't enough. Like that just practices how to play the game in your team in a pro level. To practice like champions you haven't yet built into your comp, you're gonna have to practice on solo queue. To practice on your own for when you're not with your team, you have to practice on your own in solo queue. There's nowhere else to do it. Whereas like in CSGO, if you are the equivalent of a challenger player, like a pro in CSGO, we have something called FPL. It's called Face It Pro League. You just play with other pros. And there's like, I don't know how many there are. I'd have to guess like 100 or something, 50, something. However many there are in the group. The idea is it's like a little pickup game.
In-houses.
Basically it's like that, but it's like you don't have to organize it all yourself. There's a system to do it. So the point is, if Riot's going to make their game different in this sense, so in their game, they've even admitted, you can go and find interviews, that they want pros to play with the public for this exact reason, so that a random normal public player thinks, well, I could
Anyone
see if
can
I'm
do
as
it.
good as Double Lift, or I can actually get to his level and play him. It's kind of like advertising for League of Legends, the game, isn't it? Like if you play an NA and you get good enough, you might play Double Lift, you might play against Scara, you might play whoever the fuck else, right? So being as they want to do that approach, I'm not saying don't do that approach. That's a different way to go. You can do that if you want. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to be even more vigilant, checking things like this, that the matchmaking's really, really good so that people aren't getting like a Diamond 2 player. Because as Upset also pointed out very fairly, it's unfair to the Diamond 2 player. Like imagine he's just sat there playing in Diamond all of a sudden, and then he's just dropped in a game with Upset, and then he's got like, he's a Diamond player, and then he has a Master support with him, and he's against Upset in lane. Like, well, what's he going to learn from that? That's going to be a terrible experience for that guy. And then if his other teammates flame him, like he says there, they might think he's doing badly, but they might not themselves even realize how mismatched it is. Remember, when you get dropped in the game, you don't initially see the ranks of everyone. I think that's actually one of the worst aspects. I always used to say to a friend of mine who introduced me to League, Like, why the fuck do you have to look up on a different website what the ranks of the players in the game are? And he goes, well, the problem is if everyone knew that someone was low ranked, they'd just flame them. And I was like, that's a flaw of the system, though. Like, why would you make that sound like a good thing to remove the info? So the reason I'm bringing this up is if you're going to have that system where people can play against randoms and it's a random playing with a pro who is trying to do his job. Remember, that was the background story behind a very famous incident on Reddit where I've always brought it up, where Froggen ended up with like minus 2,000 points on a comment on Reddit years and years ago. Because basically he had like a lease in or something that like trolled his game. And Froggen went nuts in the chat telling this guy to fuck off, all the rest of it. And everyone on Reddit was like, oh, see, so toxic. And Froggen basically just came on there and told everyone, sort of the gist was like, none of you know what you're talking about. Like, I'm a professional trying to like practice my job now, and this guy's wasted my game. And so his point was like, that's my practice. So the point is, if you're going to do all that, not only make the match signal system good, but as you say, Riot isn't the people who are like, well, talk shit, get hit. If you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. No, they have the opposite approach. Their approach is, if people are flaming you, just report them. We'll take care of them. So if you do that, you've then got to be very careful. This is another aspect, a very quick final point, is this is also where one of the things that fails Riot massively is this stupid mentality they've had for many years that they're going to treat pro players who play solo queue as if they're Billy Bob 7-0 fuckface from Tennessee who just joined yesterday. They're going to treat them both in solo queue identically. Well, they're not identical, are they? One is a professional trying to practice his job. The other guy's a guy playing a game for fun. So the point is, at the top level of solo queue, I think they should also have like specialist admin type people who only look at top solo queue games and who try to figure out who are the pros, who are the people who int, who are the people who might have the skill to get to that level, but then purposely win trade with people, all those sorts of things you want. You want more scrutiny at the top level, not less. So when people submit these reports, here's the thing. If I was Riot, by the way, I'll even give you an out here. If it turns out Forgiven is full of shit, he's just reporting anyone who flames him slightly, or, if he just like gets annoyed at a teammate, he reports him, then out that. If he's going to call you out, then you call him out and say, look, half these reports are nonsense. Because what we want to believe is that the report system's fair and that you're actually listening to it.
And I really don't think the Forgiven cares. Like, I think Forgiven doesn't care about somebody flaming him at all. Like, if somebody...
No, I just mean it would seem fair to the public. Like, we would know that it was bullshit.
Maybe a few points to this is like, I think it's fine if you play against like randoms or whatever, as long as they're like on your rating. Because solo queue is like a really different game from competitive. And if they're at the same rating as you, then they're probably doing like a lot of stuff right to like be matched with you. So it makes sense. And to the Froggen thing, I think like people labeling pro players as toxic when they're like dealing with frustrations and writing something in chat, I think they can't imagine like how, if you really care about like playing solo queue and caring and you don't just do it for fun, like to slack off and you're like in gold 3 and you do it to play with your friends even, it's like so different. So I think, people should maybe really consider more what it's actually about and not like, this guy's just an asshole, he's like flaming people, right? And also, the problem with Europe West kind of is, and the situation being like this is that it's Europe West, right? So if somebody's like Diamond 1 and he's inting you and you write something to him, for sure he will not say like, oh, thank you, I will look at the replay and try to improve what I did wrong and do the right thing next time. He will like tell you like, oh my god, you have so big ego when you're so fucking boosted, you weren't even in playoffs, haha, like, and then like random amount of swear words you can like imagine. So yeah, this also makes
basically the way I treat David Lim in my DMs.
Yeah, kind of, basically.
Anyway, all just harmless banter in it. It's all harmless banter.
Do you want to go to XL? Duncan, let's start with XL for the LEC teams.
XL?
Yeah.
Why the fuck would anyone want to talk about XL? All right, actually, there's one reason to talk about XL. I guess it actually is not that bad a question, actually. Upset. There is one reason to talk about XL, which is this. Right, their team's obviously not good and they've lost all the games and they weren't a good team last split. But actually, a detail people might not know is obviously XL made a move where if no one watches League of Legends, they might think, great move, look, they've recruited these bot lane players. Oh, fucking Kasing, he used to be really good 4 years ago. And then, oh, Hyanan, I love Hyanan. It's like the problem is...
Semi-fat world.
This is what I want to ask you, Upset. What people are not aware is that if you were trying to pick people right now who, given a few months of proper league play, could be good, wouldn't Jeskla and Mesquite actually be pretty decent picks of people who, like, they haven't really had the chance yet, have they?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this decision was so weird because they actually were, like, performing much better at the end of the split. And just because the player was like good in season 5 doesn't mean he's like good in season 9. And in fact, if he's like on a decline already, he's probably like much worse. Like Huni now is nothing compared to the Huni in season 5. And yeah, Jeskla, Mystics were doing quite fine, I think. Like they obviously have to learn a lot, but this roster move was like quite crazy to me, yeah.
Because basically, Loco,
the failing parts.
Like I don't blame you, obviously, if you haven't followed like the challenger level Europe, etc. But these were, but like Jeskla, for example, is someone people wanted to see in LEC. They thought this guy was a prospect. He had some talent, you know. He had a couple of good games. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was actually like writing quite a lot to him when he was like in the Spanish league and how was it? Movistar. I was like
Movistar Riders. Yeah.
Like I was like trying to like give him advice and stuff, and I thought he was like, I mean, not like the next me or something, but he was like quite good, right?
To be fair, mate, you're not the next you yet, so I'd go ahead and wait for that. Like,
yeah, just wait, just wait. You will see. I will be.
I know that you've lived up to your potential, and hold off making that. I don't want to. Like, what the fuck is the next upset? I'm waiting for this upset to arrive.
The next Reckless.
There you go.
The best idea in the world. Yeah.
There you go. Right. Yeah, got to aim for the top.
Yeah, exactly.
I
guess the next Perkz. Let's say it this way. The AD carry prodigy.
Well,
there's nothing else to talk about with XL, by the way. It's not a good team, so let's just wait. Like I said, the the most interesting
part. Mid laner. They have like a Korean now, I guess, but
they have Mickey. Yeah. Well, here's the thing on that one. Actually, that's actually one thing that does tilt me a bit. Here's the thing: if I can tell people are joking, that's fine. You can joke about whatever, have as much fun as you want. If you explicitly are joking, you're basically saying like, I'm not being really serious about this. It's not a serious topic. If people are just joking about Mickey and flaming him, I get it, right? I even sort of get it on the angle of like, well, why do we need like a washed-up Korean player to be imported in mid lane to Europe? That makes sense as well, right? We've obviously got loads of mid lane talent. It's the most famous thing about our region. But the one part I don't get is people are giving this guy zero chance whatsoever. They are acting like he is the shittest pro player in the history of League of Legends. And I've told people that actually, to me, suggests they're the noobs. They're the ones who only watched him when he was in Korea or when he was in whatever fuck else, Turkish league or something. Because I remember watching this guy in LCK, and he definitely was not a top player, but he had a bunch of fucking pop-off games, mate. He actually could have some games where he could be a good player, and he wasn't on one of the best teams either. So
he was kind of the star player, no?
Yeah, he was basically it was the Anarchy team back then. But yeah,
Anarchy. Yeah. Never mind.
But no, the sad thing is, I would kind of agree, like how to phrase this. It's like, obviously we can't do the same thing I was saying with like the fucking Kasing example. You can't be like, well, 4 years ago he was good. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But like, people were already waiting for this guy to fail before he'd even played the first game.
I mean, all the Reddit analysts like saying, there's so much EU talent, just grab it. It's like everywhere. You can just go outside and get like you can just get caps outside. Like just look at the ladder. Like it's full of caps. It's really not that easy. And people saying like, oh, just take like X regional league mid laner instead of like a guy that actually played in LCK and obviously has like a lot of knowledge and was quite good. It's like, no, there's no perspective on it, or like what are their criteria for like making a statement like this? It's just such a circle jerk. I think like, yeah, just take the European talent. Everyone is like the next caps. Just take whoever, it doesn't always work like this. And Koreans are like still quite good, even though their region is obviously not as good as EU anymore.
Sure. Oh, by the way, I just looked it up. He did actually also play in Freaks. So
yeah. I think didn't he play with Sangyun and Ki or something?
Yeah.
It was only like an okay team.
I think. Yeah. I mean, I just remember they like beat SKT a couple of times, and they like always had the number over SKT, even though they were like the better team at the time still.
Yes,
I think it was like season 7 or something. Yeah. He was like playing Twisted Fate and Zed and LeBlanc, I think. I don't know exactly.
Well,
it was quite good though.
The problem with him as well, to be fair as well, is that the reason why I don't like the whole narrative that people are building around him as well is if you want to criticize him as a bad player, I don't think he's a good player, so I wouldn't like argue against that. But I can just tell because they reference it directly. So many people are just so triggered by that story of him punching a wall when he was on Golden Guardians. And people act as though, again, kind of ties into the whole toxic discussion we had before, right? People act as though that means every game he lost, he went and punched a wall and threw a teammate out of a window and smashed the TV over the coach's head. Like, no, like it's the same thing with that fucking Vansili guy, whatever his name, who smashed that team house up. I'm sure he did it once. I mean, to be fair,
Vasily was crazy. He hit his girlfriend. Vasily's not a good example.
Maybe on that one.
But yeah, I think
But he
like,
didn't smash up other PCs, did he? Is the point? Just to have
you
a fun
don't see
time.
like the whole context to it, like, right? Like you go to scrims, you lose every game. You go to LCS, like you're playing good, but you're losing every game. Obviously, frustration is gonna build up, and if he has like no support structure there that could help him deal it in a proper way, then obviously something's gonna happen. And then just looking at the one instance is like, yeah, pretty smart, I guess.
Okay, I mean, I'm one of the Reddit analysts that criticize like the Mickey pickup, but why I criticize...
By the way, it's fine to criticize it. Don't worry about that, yeah.
I honestly don't know if there is an EU talent that can replace him. I just heard of hyped up names, but my big thing was I heard so many negative things about Mickey when he was in LCS and his behavior within the team and how he behaved, what he thought was okay, what he didn't think was okay. And also when I met and personally talked to him, him and Song came over to the Golden Coin United house when Mickey was on TL Academy, and I talked to him. I was like, man, this guy thinks really, really highly of himself, and what he thought of himself and his gameplay didn't match, but his behavior...
Wait a minute. Was it like looking into a fucking mirror or something? What are you talking about right now? Are you out of your mind? Like, the idea would even cross your brain inside. I bet as you thought that, you go, this guy thinks really high of him, and he's not even Locodoco. But you actually thought that inside your own brain, didn't you? Demented. Come on.
But
it's outrageous, isn't it?
his behavior matched what he thought of himself as a player.
Okay.
But his skill level did not
yeah.
match what he thought of himself as a player.
Like, do you think he actually did think he was some like superstar mid or something?
Yeah, from talking to him, yes.
Right. Okay.
Maybe he was showing off to me because I don't know. Maybe he was just talking to show off because he felt like he needed to show off. But in that small interaction, when I talked to him, I was like, the way he thinks of himself is really, really high.
Right, you know what happened, Upset? I think what happened was this, right? Loco goes, like, how are you settling in solo queue? And he goes, to be honest, Loco, been doing really badly. I keep getting stuck in Masters. And Loco goes, this fucking arrogant piece of shit, making up. He thinks he's better than me? You think he's better than me, do you? I used to be on Meg Frost back in the... Anyway, there you go. Right, come on, give us your thoughts, Upset, come on.
I mean, I would understand, but often it's like also maybe a defensive thing. Like if you're doing bad in a team, like you have to stay realistic and actually look at like the gameplay and what's happening around you and stuff. But if you're like doing bad, you don't want to be the reason why you're doing bad. So obviously you're gonna look at other stuff first and like think like, oh, I'm so fucking good, but my team is so bad. Like, what can I even do? I'm like, if I was in another team, I would be superstar. So you have to like be realistic and look at actually how you're performing. And I guess it didn't match the reality of how he was performing and what he thought of himself. But I mean, the point was more like tunneling in on like one thing where he like raged out or something without giving any context of like his situation and stuff. And then saying like, why would anyone ever pick him up again is like kind of a crazy statement, right? And also a note, Excel had like a EU rookie mid laner, like a EU talent who was like obviously having problems with the team, otherwise he wouldn't just get replaced, right? They didn't have like a really insane talent and then just think like, oh, let's get this Korean who like didn't have much success these past years and is like wasn't even like the best at his prime or anything.
Sure. No, that's also you make a good point there. First of all, it's not like they replaced someone good. Secondly, as you alluded to, yes, there is lots of talent, but to be fair, they are all locked up. You have to buy them out, or you have to hope that a team, like for example, some of the best talents who are in mid at the moment play for the academy team of rival teams of Excel. So not only would you have to buy them out, they have to be willing to give you a good player. So some of those teams are just going to go, well, actually, he's under contract to me. I think
especially in between splits. And also like the stuff you hear can also like really vary a lot, right? Imagine you're like in a team and one guy is doing really well and you're like inting. The guy that's doing well probably will have like a quite critical look on you and like criticize you a lot, which if you take it personal, obviously you will think like, oh, this guy's really toxic. Like he's always talking bad about me or something. But yeah, it's like context is obviously the most important thing. And I mean, if you are a psychologist and you just talk to him and you thought like, wow, this guy's so cocky. He's like, he thinks he's good. Then yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know.
I'm not saying I'm a psychologist, but I don't want to quote him and just put him on full blast. But some of the stuff he was saying, like, and the players he was comparing himself to, was like way fucking up there.
Yeah, he probably thought the same thing when you told him Gold Coin United had seen him in the LCS next year.
I mean, who knows, right?
Maybe.
But maybe he was actually really good. Like, I mean, I don't know.
You can't know. Here's the thing, though. One area I would also agree with you that, like, I don't think, like, basically it was a no-win situation for XL because let's say, for example, they'd have kept Special, the guy they brought in to give a chance to towards the end of the split. If he'd have done terribly, no one would have gone, that's fine for your player to do terribly because you could have gotten a washed-up Korean. So since you didn't, we're going to say that's fine. No, they'd still get flamed either way. So they either had to gamble on Special and hope he made it, and I agree. He might have some talent, but to be fair, like it's going to be hard for anyone to play in that team. It's not a very good team. And then secondly, there's the whole angle that, like, in that situation, you never know who's going to make it. Even if someone has talent doesn't mean they make it as a pro, unfortunately.
And also, if you're losing, if you're losing and you lose week after week and scrims are going bad, you don't think like, just wait, like he's talented. At some point, we will like start winning. You obviously look to like a solution to your problems. And if it's somebody with experience and who is like kind of proven mid laner, then yeah, why not try at least? You're like losing anyways. Why wouldn't you try to make a change? Yeah. And I'm also not saying like I know if Mickey's like a good teammate or if he's like toxic.
Sure.
But I would rather just like say I don't know than like assume that he's like some kind of personality and like really hard to work with because I've heard like that he's from other people that he's fine. You know, if I'm never in a team with him, how can I know? It's so like everyone has their own perspective, so it's so hard to actually tell how somebody is till you play with him yourself.
Do you hear that, Loco? Just bear in mind what he said there. I want it to echo in your head like fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi in Luke Skywalker's head when he's doing the Death Star run. I want that to come to your brain, upset going like, just because he is talented doesn't mean that he will come along already. It's like, I want you to think that every time you're telling me about a new NA jungler or a TSM jungler.
That's your German accent.
Just think that, whatever. Listen, if I do my real German accent, everyone will get banned from Twitch, so that's over. So, no, I want you to remember that, Loco. Just remember that. Just because they have talent doesn't mean it's going to display yet. Doesn't mean it's going to come through.
Yeah, of course. They might not meet the right coach.
No.
Or the right team.
I'd say it's more like fucking Bjergsen's body him, but whatever. Right, let's move on. And that's going to be enough time talking about fucking XL. Who even cares about XL?
Alright, pick a different team, Duncan.
We're not going to talk about every single team, are we?
No, we don't need to.
Right, let's talk. How about we do this? Pick an interesting team. Like, upset. Who's an interesting team in the league at the moment that you'd like to talk about? LEC.
Maybe Fnatic.
Yeah, why not Fnatic? Undefeated Fnatic, just beat G2. Big statement game. Is Fnatic the best team then?
No, I don't think so. I think G2 is still the best team. And Fnatic is probably second, or they can be G2, as you saw, but I think what they need is like specific things for their players to like make it work, and I don't think they can always get it. For example, like having Hillesang on a playmaking champ like Pyke, when he has like 1 million Pyke games in solo queue and he has an account where he played like 90% Pyke games. I played it versus him myself the day before, and it was like ridiculous. Like he was doing stuff I didn't even think about while I was playing, which is like pretty weird because I play this game the whole day and I should know, right? So he's just like so fucking good. I think Hillesang is probably, I think he's the best player on their team. And also when Weepo maybe doesn't get like 1v1 kills in every game he plays, it will definitely be a different story too for the top lane. And I don't know, Broxa, I think you have to give him credit because before he was like kind of AFK, but he still would be like at the right place at the right time and make good plays. And he obviously had Caps, who band-aided a lot of problems because Caps is like kind of like a second jungler, especially if he's on champs like Talia. He's so proactive and he's always making plans and he's always like looking for something to have an impact on the game. And Broxa was like clearing a lot of his jungle camps. It is partly the meta too, but even at Worlds there were like a lot of junglers that were like really proactive compared to him if he wasn't on Lee Sin. So I think Broxa really improved a lot and it's showing. He's like having huge impact on the games. And Nemesis and Reckless are probably like the worst players on their team, but they're still really good obviously for what they do. And I think Nemesis is kind of similar to Reckless in his playstyle where he likes to play like low risk, high reward kind of games. And you could see like he's quite good at champs like Corki and Azir. And he was like known Cassidy in one trick. Or like not one trick, but he was like his main champion when he was playing in Spanish League and stuff. So yeah, it's just, they are really similar. So I'm just wondering if Hillesang doesn't like get Pyke and pop off, or Buipo doesn't get solo kills, or Broxah doesn't make like a lot of proactive plays and gets them ahead, I don't know if they can like match a team like G2, for example, that just seem like 5 players who all look to get stuff done and make stuff happen all the time. And yeah.
Thoughts, Loco?
For me, Fnatic, I also agree with Upset that G2 is still the best team. Fnatic, my viewpoint on Fnatic changed a lot. I thought Broxah would do a lot worse coming into this split because he has a sub, but he's been one of their best performing players along with Hillithong. Like Broxah in that G2 game was so fucking insane. He was there for every gank, he was there for every counter gank. He basically won them the game.
But why would you think that he would do worse, actually? Because
he means like the pressure maybe of having someone who could replace you as a sub. Maybe that would make you like choke a bit. Kind of like what's happening obviously in NA, like Acadian and Grid.
I guess it's like 50-50, right? Either you like perform under the pressure or you crumble and the sub will play. But yeah, I just wouldn't have thought of Broxah, who gets like affected by pressure that much, because he is like quite proven. But yeah, I understand what you mean now.
Also, when he got like a sub, right, and then there was like this whole rumor on like Reckless and Broxah like fist fighting thing. Like I didn't know like how much of that was true. I didn't know if it was troll. So I just
Reckless versus Broxah fist fight, right? Listen, not in terms of personality, like not in terms of their physique. Actually, Broxah looks pretty built, and Reckless, to be fair, as far as I know, has always been someone who did like the gym and stuff. So I'm sure they have the physical capability to fight. Something of a metaphor for their playing style coming in here. The point is, if you know the mentality and the personality of these two players, those two having a fight would be like back in the day when you used to have like fucking like used to have like Dr. Mundo versus like what would some other super like Trundle in the top lane, and then every now and then, just for the sake of not only farming, they'd try and hit each other with an auto attack every now and then, but then they'd go like, what was even the point of that? It didn't even do any damage. Like that would be them two having a fight.
Or would more be like Lee Sin versus Tristana, no? I think Broxah would really...
No, but my metaphor... No, because the point... you missed the point. Their personalities are not the sort of people... They're lovers, not fighters, Upset. Come on.
Yeah,
that's my point of that. That's the reason I can't believe they could have had a fist. Come on, man. Like, first of all, they're really laid-back guys. They're not confrontational people. And then secondly, I don't really see them as the sort of people who'd be like in each other's faces like, well, fuck you up, homie. Oh, yeah, you want to stand on that? I don't think that was going on. Come on.
Sure.
But I didn't know any of the EU rumors. Like, I don't know like what they are, like if they're true or not. So I was like, okay, they got a sub. And apparently like Broxah and Reckless fought where they have to even post about it on Twitter, like that they're fine. Like something must be going on in Fnatic. So I just didn't expect like this kind of like resurgence from Broxah where he's just playing so well. And one player I changed my mind a lot on is Bwipo. Holy fuck, like World's Bwipo gaslighted the fuck out of me. Like World's Bwipo made me think of him as like, holy shit, like Fnatic has Caps and Bwipo. Like Bwipo is so fucking good. And like last split, he turned basically into someone that can only play Aatrox and that pushes 24/7. He never plays to back and he's always playing full on aggression. And that's kind of the Bwipo from this summer. Like I thought Bwipo would improve. I thought Bwipo would be more well-rounded, but as a top laner, he is still that like crazy, just always in your face, like always pushing up, always playing for pressure top laner. Like I feel like Bwipo will do so badly if he's on a team that can't play well with his pressure or have jungler that can match him.
Yeah, that's why though, like the dilemma for me with the Fnatic team is like how they will want to play going forwards. Because here's the thing, in line with what Upset said there, in theory, there's no problem. Great, just play through top lane then. There we go. Give Bwipo his champions, play through them whenever you can. That's probably the best for everyone. Or does the fact that, like, as you see, Nemesis is not going to be the new Caps. He's not even that type of player in any way. Does that mean, though, that he needs loads of attention to be able to play comfortably? Because if he does, I can see there being a split in the team.
I mean, I think if your mid laner doesn't get attention, you will probably lose the game versus a good team. It's just how the game is designed. And, like, no team except maybe Vitality is actually playing for top. They play for mid into like one of the side lanes, right? Mm-hmm. And Fnatic still chooses a lot to go bot like on slow pushes. I think they just play well. And Broxah is like getting ganks off on all 3 lanes, which is like quite rare. But yeah, I mean, Bwipo's playstyle didn't seem to have changed too much, but it's working much more now in the like advantages he's getting. But yeah, it's really hard to tell if he actually like learn to play more defensive or if he's like getting big leads and then just waits for 1v2, because I've seen some 1v2s this split as well.
Because that's, by the way, definitely do think Whipple is still a good player. Like, he's definitely above average top player in LEC. He's a good player.
He's really, really good.
But as Upset says, he basically has to be played around. And I'd even tie that into what you said, Loco. That's why he looked so dope at Worlds, because you just didn't see that that's what was necessary, because that's just how they played. Like, think about it, right? I gave you the analogy before that I compared him to like how I always thought Marin was overrated in SK Telecom. Because in SK Telecom, since Faker did not need any jungle attention mid, it could just be a jungler top 24/7 because it worked. But the point is, there was almost no other player in the world could have done that for you in the way that Faker did for Marin. So it's like, actually, Marin was in his dream position. That was the ideal team for him to succeed in. So if you have Caps, I mean, it's the opposite of Faker. He's not like a pressure vacuum. He's creating pressure all the time. So again, that's another, like, the problem there is it's the other way around. Now the jungler has to pick between the lanes. Where does he go? Who does he give attention to? And in theory, tell you what, if I'm picking between the two, Caps and Whipple, I think I'd go ahead and fucking gank Caps. I'd rather keep him down in the game. Like,
yeah, I mean, even if I would have to choose between Bwipo and Nemesis, like, even if I think like Bwipo right now at least is like probably a better player, and it's like, I mean, he's really, really insane at like knowing his limits and when he can kill someone and his mechanics. But I think you just have to go mid, because if you don't go mid, enemy will go mid, and if you don't into the side lane gank, then you will probably lose so much pressure on the game. It's just how the game is like designed basically. And I think nowadays a team like SKT, when you had like Faker, Marin, and they were going top 24/7, can't really exist anymore, because you like the game is so volatile right now. And if somebody's not there and you're playing like Aatrox versus Silas, you will die, like, no matter what. And so many wards are gone too, and support champs have like much more crazy playmaking too. Like champs like Pyke and Rakan didn't exist back then, right? So yeah, the game is like kind of set out now how you have to play, I feel.
And I'll even throw in this point as well. When I tried to think, because by the way, at the moment this isn't effective for Fnatic. Obviously they've been awesome to start the split, but I do think as the split goes on, some of these cracks will start to show. So another reason why I think the Broxer angle is still interesting to me is because obviously people pointed out he isn't like a super vocal jungler who's like calling everything he wants to do and stuff. And he was someone who was more the guy who followed the orders of people. Like, people told him, come to my lane in 2 minutes. That, like, it's that sort of a jungler, you know. Well, the problem there is that you can automatically see why ganks are going to be going bot lane all the time. Like, Hillsong is one of the most vocal members of their team, and Reckless is literally the franchise player. Like, just naturally you're going to be drawn bot in that scenario if the most vocal player and the guy who's setting up players over the map is telling you come here now. Whereas in that scenario, what you're going to need is Broxer has to agree with what we were just saying there. He has to agree Whipple's the guy who has to be played through, or he can't just be left on an island like he was in the spring split sometimes. So the problem with that one is like that's all internal stuff that has nothing to do with what you actually do in the game with your champion. So whether you realize that, whether you agree with that, Fnatic could think totally different from us. They could have a totally different conception of the game entirely. And maybe they're right. Who knows?
I mean, but it makes sense, right? That he like had to change his play style. Or
sure.
I mean, I don't really think like play styles necessarily exist. It's more like, are you playing good or bad? Because if you like can go for ganks that will work and you don't do it and instead farm your camps, you're like playing worse than the player that sees these opportunities and goes for them. So when he had caps, he had like a luxury, right? You have a guy that will push mid no matter what, most likely, and then will go roam and is super vocal and is like looking at the whole map and making plans. And if you're jungler, like that's the dream scenario, right? Why wouldn't you just farm and then like wait till somebody calls for something and then make it happen? But now that Caps is gone, he has to improve to like compete at the top in Europe, because he has to play versus someone like Caps. So, and his first mid laner he played with in LCS was Caps, right? It was like 2 years. So yeah. It seems like he improved a lot from not playing with Caps anymore.
So what's going to stop them actually being the best, though?
I mean, they don't have Caps, I guess. So that's one thing. I mean, Wunder's better than Bwipo too, I think. Broxer, Jankos seem like kind of even now, but I still think like Jankos over the years, everything people were like giving him shit for, he kind of fixed, and now he's just like a complete player with so much experience, and he has really good synergy with the lanes already, and their bot lane is like, I think Fnatic bot lane can have higher impact maybe if Hillsong has like his playmaking champs, and Reckless is like on a comfortable champ that he's like obviously good on, like a Silver or something, especially in this meta. But G2 is like just a really well-oiled machine, and their individual talent is really crazy too, so I don't really see them overtaking G2 if they don't have like really good plans prepared for them and can execute.
Here's the interesting discussion that now leads into. It goes like this. Like, upset. Like, let's imagine for some bizarre reason, tomorrow, right, we decided, right, at the moment, you know, your pro career is going all right. You've been in Schalke, it's all right, I guess, you know, haven't quite had the success that you want yet, you know, people probably don't recognize you as good a player you are yet because you haven't had the success. That's how it goes in sports.
Yeah, of course.
In
it
games,
makes
you know,
sense, right?
You'll never be called the best if you're on a team that doesn't make the playoffs, for example. Like, that's just, I even get why, by the way, because it'd be very, very rare that someone would be the best.
I mean, you can get credit, but...
You can get some. You can kind of get maybe like some hype.
In the NBA, maybe there's like some players that get a lot of credit, even though.
Yeah, sometimes, but it's definitely like it's harder to establish that credit.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So here's the thing: if I wanted to turn around your career, obviously I'd say just join a different team and fire off these people who are giving you all the advice. But if you can't do that, right, what I would do is this: just with PR alone, I could start to turn the corner for you, mate. All you have to do is do this, right? Every time someone compares you and another AD carry who's better than you, so the two that they're all going to say is they're going to say Reckless and Perkz, right? I would just say this: who does Reckless have in top lane? Who does Perkz have as his jungler? Who does this guy have? You know, like it does make it hard to judge the positions, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think instead of like comparing a player to player, you should try to think like, how would this player do in the team, and how would the other player do in the team? Like, do you really think like Schalke would do a lot better if they had Reckless instead of me, or Fnatic would do like a lot worse if I was in Fnatic and Reckless was on Schalke, or like if I was just in Fnatic? This is much better way to compare, but it's still like so hard because you can't look inside of a team and you can't know like specifically.
There's a lot of guesswork for sure.
Like what people are actually bringing to their team. So the easiest way to compare someone is like, how is their team doing in the standings and stuff?
Sure.
Like that's like a no-brainer, right? Well, this guy won the split. You didn't make playoffs. This guy must be a lot better at his role, right? But yeah, obviously it doesn't work like this. And there's a lot of nuances and context to like in what teams who is and stuff. But it's really hard to explain to someone or talk to someone who like doesn't really want to, or is even a fan of the player that you're being compared to, right?
Sure. Because one of the problems I personally have right now when I watch LEC is trying to evaluate Perkz. I find him the hardest player maybe to ever evaluate of any players I've ever watched, because he's the only player I know who, first of all, I already have a natural bias, which is that I know he used to be a godlike mid laner. So that's always in the back of my mind. So I want to believe he could be the best AD carry because I know he has talent. So already I have a hard time looking only when he was ADC and forgetting everything before that. But let's say I managed that.
Okay.
Go on.
I mean, the way I judge players is just by playing against them and watching their games, because I'm obviously like a pro player and I consider myself really good at what I do and understand what I'm doing well, at least for my role. So if I watch someone, it's really easy for me to rate someone, like when I play against them, how much do they contest me? How much do they pressure me? How many games do they carry versus, like, how do they do in the team? And what resources do they have and still do this and the amount of mistakes? So for me, it's easy, but from outside, it's like hard. But I can tell you, like, Perkz is for sure top 2 AD right now. Like, when I watch his games, he's like really high impact player, and he does like, he's also really good on the champs now, to be honest. And what no other AD has is like, he plays mid lane champions on a world class level. And even like, if you compare him to other mid laners, he's like a lot better on mid lane champs than mid laners, because he was like top 4 mid laner in the world, or maybe even like one of the best last worlds. So this is what he has had, but there's not always a place for these champs in the meta, and you can't always like play them to the same effect as an AD carry. But yeah, he's like really, really good now, I think.
Right. Well, that's the other part, is that if I had to give, like, let's say instead of having to evaluate fairly, I just give reasons why he could be the best, I would obviously give that as a brilliant reason. Like right now, that is an insane level of versatility for your AD carry that almost no other AD carry in the world brings, actually. But the problem I have is this: if I was to build reasons that would at least make you question whether he's the best at his role, he has more reasons against him than any other player who's a candidate for best AD carry.
I mean, 100%.
He has the best top player. People literally say the best player in the West. He has the best player in the West. Most people say Caps. He has the best jungler for half a fucking decade almost in Europe. He has the best playmaking support, who is also considered one of the mechanical playmaking supports. Like, what more could you want? Like, I'm not saying that doesn't mean he's good, but like, if I wanted to become a pro AD carry, that would be the dream scenario.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably put like any play AD out of LEC in this team, and they would still win the split. I mean, maybe Fnatic's like a lot better now, but I think it still wouldn't matter in the best of 5 that much. And you could put like maybe a feud that they could still win MSI with, but MSI is obviously like a different beast. And I don't know how good like Perkz is at AD carry necessarily as the role, but I just know he's like a great player and he brings so much to his team. And I mean, in general, and he obviously has like insane game knowledge.
Sure.
So I just know he's like a great player. So I'm not sure how important it's like how good he is at AD carry specifically.
No. Here's the thing. It also, in the context of G2, doesn't matter because it's working and they win, and he looks like he fits the team well, as you say. As I say, when I try individually, though, that's why it's tough. Because put it this way, just to show that I'm trying to be fair here, I would absolutely, by the way, in that case, say that, like, for example, Perkz is a way better team setup than Reckless. If you want to hit on Reckless should get extra credit if he beats Perkz on the fucking even teams. What are you talking about? Look who he's got to work with.
Like, depends what he's playing, right? If he plays like, if he's actually carrying the game and he's like getting elite bot and stuff, 2v2 because he's winning trades, because like just winning bot, if your mid jungle is roaming, is not so hard. You like barely have to do anything, right? So if he like actually can make the difference, then he should get so much credit, I think, because his players are like, I mean, Perkz has like literally the best players in every role on every position. So yeah, it's hard to judge him like specifically on AD carry because you don't have any context for how he played before. Like imagine you would put him like on, I don't know, Excel, and you would have to see like how he would do and if he could carry this team. Like we will never know, right?
And then there's also the other factor as well. I'll just throw this last one in, which is one of the reasons why the game alone, watching the game alone, can't tell you everything. Is I've always thought one of my specialties in esports is because I've been around so long and therefore I've experienced so many things. I can often like read between the lines of what someone's saying. So I don't have to actually hear them say a specific thing to know that like that could be what's going on by how the situation's set up. So one of the tricks I learned you have to do years and years ago is sometimes the way you find out what's going on is you just look at everything people said and you look at what wasn't said. Like, that's weird. It was obvious someone would mention this, but no one did. Why is that? Like, are they covering something up there? Is it hidden? So along those lines, the reason why watching the game or looking at laning stats will never tell you who's the best is because there's a thing called the jungler on the map. And if you were to explain, to someone who's never played a MOBA before, they would think jungle must be the most OP shit ever. So it's a guy who just comes in the lane and gives you a man advantage in a fight when the other team doesn't know what's going to happen unless you roll it correctly. And therefore you have a 3v2 or a 2v1 and you're probably going to win that scenario and you get ahead, right? If you told someone that, they'd go, holy shit, that's OP. Well, think about this, right? If you're in a team like Perkz has, there will literally be games where it's like half as likely the jungle will come to your lane because of the specific matchup Wonder has in the top lane. Because at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Gamble a gank that might not work on the bot lane in certain comps, or let Wonder have a 1v1 and potentially get the whole game ahead?
Yeah, or like even, I mean, jungle is one thing, like how jungle influences the whole game is obviously like a huge part for how lanes will go and everything, but how your mid laner's doing, how your top laner's doing, influences like everything so much.
TP advantage, even, like, mid pressure.
Perkz also has a top and mid who will teleport into his lane and fight.
I mean, Reckless has that too, though.
Reckless does, but I mean, not every ADC does.
But you know, like even if like you're just playing bot lane, but enemy top turret is down, it already influences the game for you so much too. Like if you're winning in the game, it's so much easier to do well and have like good stats or whatever. So it's like, you really have to, it's so hard to look at players and rate them like this, I think. And also, oh fuck, I forgot what I want to say.
It's all right, just say some other shit. Right, let's move on. What about, let's talk about the team that everyone used to think was the number 2 team in Europe, Origen.
Oh.
Right, come on. Here's the thing, first things first. I've got a question for you. It goes like this. It's the other way around on Patrick. Because here's the problem I have, right, is I actually personally think that most of the Origen players are overrated because I think they're all good or above average players. But actually, when they formed this team, because every player used to be called underrated, like obviously people used to underrate Alpharix because they never said he was the best, or Cold must be underrated because he was on the Unicorns of Love team and no one thought they were good. You know, like every player was like underrated. Obviously, Mithy was trash when he was in NA, so everyone had all these reasons. I think they go too far the other way because I do think Patrick is one of the best players in Europe. Like he looks like a really good AD carry. But if he has all these amazing players, why isn't he fucking top of the league then? What are we waiting for here? He has a pretty good team around him.
What do you mean with one of the best players in Europe, like top 20?
No, as an AD carry, I mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I would agree. Yeah, I think he's like top 4.
So how would you explain his situation at the moment?
I mean, I think their solo lanes, like excluding my team, I think their solo lanes are top 2 or top 3 in the league, and can even be top 1 if they're like given the situation. I think
Wait a minute, why did you say exclude your team? Like, your team will never be in that fucking ranking. What are you talking about? Why are you lying? Just keep going.
No, just excluding my team. Because I would say like Abyss.
Right. Oh, my mistake. Yeah.
You would say Abyss top 2. Wait, you would say Abyss top 2. You would say Abyss top 2.
I mean, it's whatever. Like
whatever. It's just some flame.
I was making a point there.
Okay.
I mean, I played with Nuktak myself, and I thought he was like Perkz, Caps, Nuktak. They were like top 3, and they all, given the situation, could do a lot. I think obviously Caps, Perkz might have higher impact in some games, but Nuke is really, really good too. So he has like second best mid laner. I think his top laner is really, really good too. And I think Myth is above average for sure, like top 3, top 4. Cold is like top 5, top 4 probably too. And yeah, Patrick is not like the best player at this role or like the hard carry of this team. It's mostly like a solo lane team. So if this team should like get the next step and like beat Fnatic more consistently, maybe, because they kind of lost for them in the regular season, but I guess they beat them in playoffs. But in playoffs it was like Sona Taric shenanigans, and then they basically won 1-1. Then he would have to be the one to step up, and probably Cold and Mithy too. But they're still like above average players with like star solo lanes, I would say. This is how I would describe this team.
Sure. Right, Loco, being as you claim that you watch all the LEC games now and you've been keeping up to the region, I'm just waiting, right? I'm going to give you an opportunity now to wax lyrical about what a great upcoming talent, Patrick is. Obviously, I don't want you to use too much of that big brain that you've assigned exclusively to all the other great players that you've touted over the years. Mike Young, Acadian, fucking Apollo.
When did I say, oh my God?
I don't want you to, I know.
You're just putting words in my mouth.
Obviously, Patrick doesn't deserve the fucking brushwork of that masterpiece of those great players, By the way, Mike Young, shout outs to you on that one, Loco, for your good call on that one. He couldn't even play his own role at a pro level. But anyway, to one side with that. What do you think of Patrick? Plays your position. Okay, well, the position, it's not really your position anymore, is it? It used to be your position about 8 years ago.
Yeah. Right now, I feel like OG is really hard to judge. So as Upset said, OG won versus Fnatic because they had better understanding of Sona Taric in
playoffs.
Yeah, in playoffs. Yeah, and then now OG, like, they started the season really well with their Sona, Camille, Sejuani comp when they were running that, and then teams started to contest them on that. And last 2 weeks, OG actually looked really weird. Like, they're slow to objectives. Like, Nuke Duck's losing lane, Alfari's losing lane. Like, the OG that we're talking about with like them having top tier solo laners, like the last few weeks the performance have been pretty off. Like, I don't go ahead.
He did get kind of camped though. Like the game Nuke lost lane was Fnatic, it was like 3 people in his lane a lot of times. But
right, so then what was the other laner doing?
Which other laner? Bot lane?
Listen, mate, if everyone's in the mid lane, there's a top lane with no junglers in it.
Yeah, I mean...
So where's he then? Go on then, Alfari, carry the game, mate.
Yeah, I guess if it works.
I'd be the best coach ever. Don't give me the good first
too, right?
But my clapback always gets you.
People third place too, like us 2 or 3rd, right? And some matchups you just don't automatically win the game if somebody's mid.
True.
So yeah, I guess. But
as you said, like mid lane is all about like people ganking you right now. Like, you have to keep track of support, you have to keep track of even AD carry, jungle. So like, if he's getting ganked, even if he's camped, if he dies, at the end of the day, it's his fault. Like, his teammates are probably making calls regarding like, hey, people are roaming to mid lane, like, you have to play safe. So I mean, you guys talk, I don't have like strong feelings on Patrick, but for OG overall, they're just hard to judge right now, where they picked up wins with good strats earlier in the season, and then now they are slow to objectives and they're losing lanes. Like, this is not the OG I know. So yeah.
I'm not sure if this kind of season 9 meta is necessarily the best playstyle for it, because Cold seems like more like a structured jungler, maybe like the old Brock I would say. And Mithy obviously is known for like his big brain, I guess, and like a strategic approach to the game. But right now it's a lot about playmaking, and the teams that have like really good playmakers will win versus the team that's just like a good team but doesn't have the good playmakers. So like, even we nearly beat Origen last week. It was like a really long game, and we like could have won the game if we made a few more like good decisions. So they don't seem like as scary to play against, because they if you don't give them opening, they won't just roll over you completely like G2 or Fnatic would.
At least not as aggressively, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they will like try to choke you out, but they won't like flash, predict your flash with their.
No, I kind of see what you're coming from there. Because here's the thing: if you took this exact 5 players and it was just not literally they go back in time, but it was the same meta as like 2 years ago, I think they'd be the best team in Europe. Like you look at the squad they have. What a great squad they'd have for like a more of a vision-based game where you can actually play a control jungler. Of course, it'd be wicked. What a great set of players to play with as well. I think they even fit each other pretty well.
But once they figured this shit out,
was pretty broken back then, and maybe like a Reckless would excel more at this kind of playstyle. But yeah, I guess they have. I mean, actually they have Mythy, so probably they would be the best in Europe. Yeah.
Do you remember in spring, like they started out really badly too, and then once they started clicking and once they figured out the meta and how they were gonna play, like they started doing well again. So maybe it's the same pattern in summer where they're not figuring stuff out, or there's, I don't know, because like laning being bad is like not, I'm not sure where that comes from, but, and also, yeah, OG's just a hard team to read. Like what they've shown just in the short span in summer is not what I think of them because like of how they did in playoffs and what I know of the players. So OG's a hard read for me.
I'm not really that concerned, to be honest. I know obviously like, yeah, you do expect them to be one of the best teams, so you have to get the record back there by the end of the split. I'm not that concerned, though, because the other thing about this squad is I do think they've got pretty smart players overall, so I actually do expect them to figure some of this shit out. The difference is, when Fnatic had that terrible start to the spring, well, they had like a new coach overall. Yeah, Youngbuck was there before, but he was officially the head coach at this point in time. They'd lost their best player, so like the problem in that scenario is they basically should have treated it like a new team, but they came in thinking, oh, we've got like 90% of the answers. It's like you didn't know. That's the problem. You thought you did. Whereas actually, I think OG, like you say, they were a brand new team at the beginning. They got it together. They've had a few problems now. Like problems like Nukedoc losing lane in CS is not really like a consistent problem. Is it? Like that's like a one-time thing. Like I'd go ahead and bank that it's not going to happen in the next 3 games. So and that's not a concern to me at all. I agree. Some of the other stuff, like for example, I personally think one of the biggest problems they have as a team is every time I made a joke because every time I watch them play, it's like on the one hand they do smart stuff, and I'm like that Mythy guy's a really smart player, and I'm like, what's this Mythy guy in the game inting for? Though, like why is that guy in a brush? There's no one even there. Like he dies so many times, it's ridiculous. So they definitely have some weirdness to them that I don't really understand, but I think they figure it out. Like the only thing is this, Loco. I've got half an hour left. Okay. So do we switch to Rift Rivals? Do you want to talk about one more team? What?
Well, not necessarily. I guess I want to talk about Misfits a bit. That's the one other team like I follow really closely.
All right, let's do it.
Maxlore looks so fucking lost. Oh my god. Whenever Maxlore picks stuff like Elise, like it drives me fucking crazy. Like they pick stuff like Elise Syndra, which is super high execution level. And when you're stacking AP jungle with AP mid laner, when people build MR and when people build Mercs or they run cleanse, like it makes the execution level of it like go even higher. Like I don't know. Whenever I'm not sure if it's Maxlore forcing it or like the coach just wants to make the Maxlore look bad. Whenever he's playing, like I feel like their setup is weird. I feel
wait a minute. I have to call him out on that one.
What?
Right? In what fucking universe, if a jungler played bad on any other team, would he be like? I don't know if the coach is telling him to play bad or whether he's just doing this of his own choice. Like you are aware, Maxlore, like his family aren't like tied up in the basement, with a fucking bomb strapped to their head, and then they're like, every time you don't int, the bomb gets 1 minute closer to detonate. Lord, what are you talking about? What sort of absurd speculation is that? Why
okay.
Just go ahead and stop being a pussy. He's not a good jungler.
The draft.
He's not a good jungler.
I don't know. Their draft looks so fucking bad whenever they play with Maxlore. Why would you ever run Elise Syndra?
But they had Aatrox stuff, so it's not super bad. No?
You don't think Elise Syndra's like buy Mercs, run cleanse?
Wait a minute. You're also the guy who always stands up for coaches by saying, what, you think every coach just gets to pick what they do in the draft, bro? No, players are picking stuff. Just other players get to pick whatever they want. Like,
I'm not sure.
And now magically this guy just picks everything, does he? And he goes...
I built a world of respect for Maxlore and Alfari whenever Misfits fucked up TSM in 2017, so I always had high opinions of them. And to suddenly see him do so fucking badly in spring and summer...
let me give you a 3 names and see if you can see any sort of a theme between them. Okay. So remember going into MSI, people were really worried Xmithy would be bad, right? That he'd be outdated, he wouldn't be able to play. So we've got Xmithy. We're going to go with Score from Korea, and we're going to go with who is it in Europe? You're just talking about Maxlaw. Can you see a combination between these three players? Like some similarities in their style, their strengths. Like none of them are fucking mechanical beasts. None of them are going to play like carry junglers. They're all like play for the team, support all the lanes, junglers. They literally, their number one quality is their brain, right? It's how they read the game, how they communicate, right? That is the least emphasized thing in the game of League of Legends right now.
Okay, if that's the case, then don't fucking pick Elise. Like, if your thing is brain power, if your thing is I read pathing really well, like, why the fuck are you playing Elise? Like, why are you playing these high execution comps? Like, you're setting him up to fail, or he's setting himself up to fail. So I really don't fucking understand what Misfits is doing with Maxlor. It's not just Elise. When he plays other champions, he still looks lost, but Elise is like the ultimate one. I think the coach wants him
to look bad.
Well, that's the only other theory, isn't it? Here's another theory for your Loco. And this theory's really going to blow your mind because you've definitely never done this while stumbling home drunk with a girl talking into her ear. But some people lie about what they're capable of doing and then go on to fail and do it and then blame other things. So in this analogy, you've said it yourself, mate. This is another team with a sub-jungler. So if they come in and go, right, well, all right, Kire. All right, Maxor. Nice to see you both here. So we're just looking for someone who can play Elise this week. What do you think Maxor's going to go? Over to you, Kire. Just take my whole job. In fact, you know what? Take my keys. Have my bitch and my dog as well. What the fuck's he going to do? No, he could have to go, I think I could play the Elise, sir. Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Now into the game you go. Right. And by the way, I'm going to tell you to play badly this week as well.
Okay, the other jungler, the other jungler, when they play Kire, they actually play towards Kire. Like, it gives them an identity. Sure. Like, so it's worse.
I don't think you have a choice with that guy though. To be fair, you have to play towards him
versus us, and he like just ran it down. Like, I'm not sure if the jungle is necessary. I mean, obviously, Maxlor's like underperforming for his standards, I would say, but you also have to see the whole team is underperforming if you think about the players they have.
They also did have like you know the old joke of like my Yasuo, the opponent's Yasuo. They had my Yasuo. They had your team's Yasuo in that game.
Yeah, that's true. You know, but their bot lane was like dying 2v2 and 20 assists down and stuff too.
Leader
sucks, I guess.
Leader was so hyped up, and I bought into the hype. I was like, "Holy shit! This guy destroyed EU Masters." And then like he's always in like promos, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, when does Leader play? Like when is Leader gonna replace Febiven?" And then he plays Yasuo into Skarner and just gets ulted all day. I'm like, okay.
But this was like the most Leader thing he could do, because if you are like high elo and you play with him, it's always like, it's like such a like old meme, I guess, and used so often, but he's actually this Yasuo. And even in EU Masters in the qualifications, he had like a game where he went like 1-12, I think, versus like a Renekton mid. It's just like a burger flip, and if he pops off and gets fat, he has like obviously really good mechanics, but if it doesn't happen, he will probably end. But it's kind of also the design of Yasuo. It's just like you go in and either you kill everyone or you will die. You can't go back.
It's also why it's hilarious the champions that he's most famous for playing upset, because like they literally fit the guy's mentality. Because the thing is, Loco, the reason why actually, believe it or not, this isn't actually the end of the world for Leader. Like, you shouldn't watch this game and go, he's just trying to get him out. No, the point that he's making here is a legit point, which is Leader is one of those players who tries to play like to the absolute limits, cap style in that sense. So the point is, he either will fuck the whole game up like this, or he might just take over the whole game and be the MVP. So I don't know if this is the right squad for him. I might have questions about that. And I think it's kind of touch and go as to whether like, it even made sense to replace Febiven at the moment, but whatever. I guess that's a push on that one. But like, I wouldn't go. Like, here's the thing: it was a joke in this game, and obviously, like, it doesn't look good that he's played fucking Yasuo and you get wrecked like that. But it's also just his personality. Like, that's not actually unusual. That is literally in line for what you'd expect from him, basically.
Yeah, but I feel like the whole course, like, something must be wrong. Because all of these players have seen success on other teams, like big success, and then you put them together, and then suddenly like feels like they're on a downward spiral for the entire year. It's like I don't see
their
much
team
wrong.
Actually reminds me like they're the European version of 100 Thieves, basically, where like the team is less than the sum of their parts. Like even on 100 Thieves now, I still think if you took all those players and sent them to 5 different teams, all different from each other, I guarantee at least 1 or 2 of them would become good players again. I assume with Misfits,
I think so
maybe I don't know if all of them would, but maybe all of them would. Like if you put them on the right other team, I think most of these players could be really good.
I mean, I don't think like probably any player of them is in their prime right now or anything like this, like same for 100 Thieves, but they're still like good players that should bring a lot of value to a team. So I really don't know what's going on in Misfits. It seems like really mismanaged, or the players are just not clicking at all, or they're like all having.
Also, just an unfortunate name to have for your team when you indeed recruit of all those really good players who then don't in any way fit together, and something's missing, but you can't quite figure what it is. Just saying. That's a shame. That's a shame. That's a shame.
Duncan, before we go to
that would be like if Excel were called like int shitlords who didn't know what they're doing. Like. Whereas instead, ironically, they called themselves Excel. Like, we go above and beyond what you can expect. Like, no, you don't. Okay, you dumb fucks. You don't do any of that stuff. The only Excel that I care about in the air is someone who goes and looks at the actual like facts and figures of the numbers in some spreadsheet and goes, get that team the fuck out of the league. There's the Excel I care about. That's the Excel I'm cheering for.
Duncan, before we go to Rift Rivals talk, can we talk about the quick shot drama a little bit?
What's the quick shot drama like?
The Pro V thing.
Oh, right. I see what you mean. You know, when you say drama, no, he said that. He just means I flamed him in a tweet, didn't he? Like,
but he just said like he made a mistake, no? And like,
yeah, he also did.
He was
like, the reason why Loco says to bring it up is because obviously a lot of people don't follow everything that goes on. So people won't be aware of what happened. Yeah. So the basic story is this: Veteran did a tweet where he said something along the lines of like, oh, I guess Provu can be used to leak scrims now, because he showed a screenshot where someone was scrimming. I forget which team it was, actually. It might have been Schalke, was it? No?
No, it was like Mad Lions.
It was like a
Master Academy team, I think.
There you go. So it was on the National Leagues level, right? So he showed a screenshot of like a leaked scrim, which somehow he must have accessed through ProView, right? So all Veteran basically was doing was making it known, like, there's something fucked up with the ProView guys. You can actually leak games. So Quickshot basically responded, and I don't have his message to hand, but I'll give you the gist. The basic message was along the lines of like, well, you know people who work with Riot, Veteran, so why are you publicly showing this? Like, you're just going to make more people aware of it. Why not just privately contact them and then we can get it fixed? And then I obviously clapped back and basically told Quickshot to go shove it up his ass, in any other words than that, because that is a ridiculous statement. Like, Veteran doesn't work for fucking Riot. He's also, that's not even necessarily a true statement. How the fuck do we know that he knows someone at ProView? He's just another guy like the rest of us using any app. And obviously, guess what the quickest way to bring it to everyone's attention is? Bring it to everyone's attention. Tell you what, I bet they fucking fixed that really quickly when everyone in the public knew you could watch scrims, whereas as your old mate Forgiven could tell everyone, sometimes contacting people through a side channel doesn't get you anywhere. It just gets you someone going, I'm sorry you had that experience. We will endeavour to make the proper adjustments, like some fucking corporate speak. Like, you actually start wondering if it's a human that's answering the phone, a real person, like a robot at that point. So, like, I can totally see on both sides, though, what was going on. Because here's the thing. What Quickshot really meant, and he just shouldn't have put a little bit of snark in, he just meant something along the lines of, like, if someone like that happens, like, reach out privately to me or to someone involved and we'll fix it, But the problem is the way he said it. I'll admit I was just in a bad mood anyway, but it triggered me because it was just like, who the fuck are you? Like, why do we have to do what you say?
Yeah, but I mean...
But he did also, when I did that, as Upset said, he did immediately reply and say, like, yeah, okay, I was probably wrong on that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he could have DM'd Veteran himself, right?
That's what was my point as well. I basically said, like, logically, if he has to DM you, why are you calling him out publicly on it? Just fucking message him privately then.
But also, he shouldn't, like, post a screenshot of the champs that were picked in the scrim, like... Now, for sure, the people that are like in the league saw.
Right, wait a second. I'm going to wreck you in a second on this Upset, because here's the thing. You're a guy. You're German, right? You're German.
Yes.
Your people revere logic. Don't worry, I'm aware. I've had some call-in shows. They never shut the fuck up talking like logically. But you see, logically, you must be the case. So, are you ready? We're going to use some logic here, right?
Yes.
So, how did Veteran see the actual picks?
With the app and not with posting on Twitter.
So you got it wrong there. You said that like Veteran was leaking it. No, ProView leaked it.
Yeah, ProView leaked it.
ProView leaked it to everyone.
Yes,
but they just weren't aware of it.
He leaked it even more. Like,
right, so when a journalist says, like, murderer on the loose, you're like, why are you telling everyone there's a murderer? A minute ago, we were all loving life. What?
I mean, this doesn't make too much sense, I think, because, I mean, imagine, like, I tell something to a friend, and he knows it too then, right? I leaked something. And this friend then goes on Twitter and tweets it to 400,000 people, and then 400,000 people know it. Obviously, it's my fault that I leaked it, and that's the core issue. But the repercussions of it, or like what happened afterwards, makes it a lot worse. And this shouldn't have happened too. Like, he's bothered that somebody leaked the scrim, and then he leaked it on his own Twitter, where much more people will see it than people that are like specifically looking ProView and then like the
First of all, one, by leaking it publicly, as I said, I actually personally think he ensures it gets fixed immediately, as opposed to slowly, which could happen privately. Secondly, since Veteran didn't have private access to that, Many people could have that info already.
I mean, I think it could DM them.
Which would you rather have, right? Would you rather know your scrim picks got leaked and you could change them, or not even know and them get leaked?
I mean, I would much rather not seeing my scrim picks on Twitter.
No, because now you know you can check. You don't get that part still, don't you?
No. I mean, I get it that the core problem is that it's getting leaked on ProView, but I still would not.
No. My point is this: in that scenario, which is better for you, the person that got the scrim picks leaked, for them to be leaked through ProView, but you not to know and to go into the match, and then the opponent knows all your picks, and you're like, "What the fuck? How do you know my picks?"
But anyways,
instead, if veteran shows now you know your scrim picks got leaked, you can change them.
Okay. That's true, but he would still report it anyways. And he's like seeing these ProView games because he's like affiliated with watching them or something. But I understand what you mean now, yeah. But I still think both things have like upside and downside.
Oh, here's the thing. I agree.
I mean, I don't know what's the right way, right?
I would agree with you on that one. If Veteran doesn't think that info should be out there, he probably shouldn't leak it himself. Yeah, you're right on that.
Like, I would be.
It's just that it's not Veteran's fault when it got leaked, obviously, is the point.
He wanted the favorites and the retweets.
I mean, both things are a problem, and Veteran's also obviously like a person that's very outspoken, I guess you can call it. So I could see also why he does it there. This way, why he does it this way. I'm not sure what's the better way. Like I couldn't tell.
It's hard to know in a situation like that. To fuck up for everyone, mate. It's not a good situation for anyone.
I mean, that sucks, right? But I don't know. Like who knows, right?
But the thing is, though, Upset, you have also just done exactly what Quickshot himself did, which is the ultimate mistake, mate. I even made this point in my tweet. So logically, let's follow the chain of logic. ProView leaks it, but only people who have access to that get to see the leaks, right? Then Veteran posts a screenshot that leaks it even further, right? Yes. But how many followers does Veteran have on Twitter? I'm going to guess 40k. You know what makes it even more?
All of them making the same mistake.
Yeah, you know who leaks it even more?
But I never said like Quickshot respond like this too. Like
I agree, but you know what I mean. Quickshot himself, by the same logic, made it even bigger.
Yeah, but even in this tweet chain, he admitted himself he shouldn't have done it, and what he did was like the same thing he did. But
he admitted it when I clapped back. He admitted it when I clapped back. That's like eating a curry, and then when your arsehole hurts, going, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have eaten that curry." You didn't think that when you were eating the curry.
I mean, at least he did, right? I could imagine many people who would like say, like, "I'm not wrong. Why did he do it?"
Oh yeah, I'll give him absolute credit for that. I also thought he was quite professional with the way he responded. Actually, when he was pointing out that he sort of done the same thing.
To my point, I'm not saying like this issue shouldn't have been brought up or anything, but if you want to lower the chance of leaks getting scrims getting leaked, you shouldn't post it on your Twitter if that's the biggest issue about it, and you should try to get it done otherwise. And if it's not getting done, then you should leak it. But if your first response is to instantly go on Twitter, then you didn't even try the other option of getting it done without scrims being leaked to even more people.
All right. Let's go to Rift Rivals. Let's go to Rift Rivals. Enough of this. Duncan, let's go to Rift Rivals. So, from what I heard, so here's a talking point. From Travis's interview, C9 is not scrimming European teams, specifically Fnatic. I'm not sure if they aren't also scrimming G2 and OG, but they aren't scrimming Fnatic. So I didn't get to see the whole interview, I just saw comments about it. But it seems so weird to me that C9 wouldn't scrim the EU teams because Rift Rivals has no bearing on Worlds, and the opportunity to scrim like other like regional teams, like other top tier regional teams, like it's teams. So fucking valuable. So I'm just shocked.
I mean, the only reason I could see it is like if they're preparing specific strategies and they like didn't get the memo that Rift Rivals actually doesn't really matter to anyone. It's like not an important tournament, and but they still really want to like have something secret prepared that no one is in scrims, because if you scrim a team from a different region and they're like competing versus your region, they were like the chance that it get leaked could be like a lot higher than you could think that it might get leaked, right? So you wouldn't want to like take this risk, and you play versus the same team anyways the next day. So that's the reason. Like it's just like a weighing off, I think, like the improvement you can get and focusing on your NALCS split instead of trying to like get a good Rift Rivals result or other way around, because you will also see what they play versus you, right? So it seems really like not a smart idea. Yeah, but maybe they take like a break or something before the tournament.
Obviously, the main issue here is like, first of all, is it only Fnatic or do they not scrim the other teams? Because that's a different situation. Like the distinction there is pretty key. But let's assume it's just the premise that you made there, Loco, which is like just you have an opportunity to scrim another top team, a team that's better than a lot of teams in your region. Why not play them and see if you get better? My premise on that is been the same from most esports games, because in esports history, this has always been a trend. What happens is you get people, it's usually when someone's the best, believe it or not, and they think, I shouldn't practice this guy who's like a rival of mine because what if like he gets better from practicing against me? I think that's a loser's mentality personally, because in my opinion, if you are the smarter team, you are the better team, you will gain more from your practice against an opponent than they will gain from practicing you, because you are smarter and better. You will take the information you get from them and that will level you up. Because like, to me, it's like a fan view that like everyone has, like, yes, occasionally you have one comp that you don't want anyone to see. But most of the time, 90% of the comps that get drafted, we see all around the world. We see them in LCK, we see them in LPO, we see them like no one's really doing like top secret flying like Mighty Ducks level shit every time. Like that's like a one-off. So unless you are doing something like that, if you're just doing normal League of Legends, just treat it as good practice and just have some good practice. I think you'll be better in the long run, personally.
To read Grabs' tweet, to give it more context, he says...
Grabs?
Yeah,
the
Grabs.
G2 coach?
Yeah, the G2 coach. We have been asked by NA orgs for scrims, both teams participating at Rift Rivals and not. To my knowledge, there was only one team who does not want to scrim EU teams. As much as I like to see the world burn, NA teams are indeed attempting to find good practice, and that one team is C9. So I'm not sure why C9's doing this, because it doesn't make sense to me.
Probably Reaper doesn't want to expose the best region to his 200 IQ drafts before Worlds, since then he can do he has about 17 flying Vs. He has the flying V, the flying upside down, he has everything waiting in that fucking playbook, mate. His 200 IQ drafts are going to beat everyone.
Damn. I don't know. I think like getting to, if I was a coach of an NA team or if I was a coach of an EU team, like coming to a different region and scrimming the teams in that region, like the top tier teams, and like learning their playstyle, like, because I mean, as much as EU wants to say, oh, there's nothing to learn from NA, like EU and NA distinctively play different. There are things EU can learn from NA and vice versa. So yeah, like this is like once in a year opportunity to do it without any kind of repercussions. Like you're not going to be playing these teams in an important tournament all the way until Worlds. So I just see no reason, and I'm just so fucking baffled.
I mean, this is like a fast stretch, but maybe they actually don't want to scrim versus an EU team and get like infected by their meta. Because, for example, last year they were playing like versus Heimerdinger and stuff, and then they all started playing Heimerdinger, but they all had like kind of mixed results with it, and it wasn't like doing that well. So maybe they want to like stick to their guns and like just.
What happened was, Loco, after MSI, where Team Liquid went there, they were playing everyone. They were just playing well. They were winning. They came home with a really, really bad case of STDs, because all of a sudden there was pikes everywhere. There was an outbreak of Azers in the mid lane. There was Azers being picked into Silas's. It was a fucking joke.
Very contagious.
So the only way to be safe now is you got to double bag this motherfucker. Don't scrim any EU teams. Keep them all away. Just stay with those really respectful traditional Asian men.
Dude, also Rift Rivals
will make you a good wife.
Rift Rivals doesn't even feel like a real tournament, because all I hear is like, oh, we went out to celebrate Zeben's birthday as a group with like entirety of like G2, and like Perkz and Doublelift went to go grab ramen. Like, could you imagine like before Worlds, like a day or two before Worlds, like if Faker and like Uzi were playing each other, like if they went out and like grabbed food, like just as competitors, like it looks really fucking bad to do it. It just shows how much people are taking Rift Rivals as a joke. Like people are to like chill.
Almost as pathetic as if one of the top European AD carries before Season 4 World, don't know why I said Season 4 World, just a random example here, was like already planning to join the rival team before he'd even played the tournament. What a fucking whack storyline that would be. Never would happen though. So anyway, don't know why I even thought that up. It's one of those hypotheticals, isn't it? So no, I agree. That's the problem with this as a tournament, is like, by the way, I totally get if you're right, you wouldn't want people saying this tournament means nothing, haha, it doesn't matter. But like, the problem is, since everything else in people's careers does mean something. Like the domestic split obviously means a lot. You have to maintain your spot to even get to Worlds. MSI means a lot. Like even if it's not Worlds, it's still the next biggest thing after that. Worlds is obviously the be all end all. It's the ultimate tournament. The problem is in that context, Rafavs just doesn't fit in anywhere.
Maybe it matters a lot because it's like really good EU players going to America and then they just go there and they try really hard to destroy the NA talent. So they know like in a few years they have like a huge paycheck secured already because you saw what happened when they play versus each other. But also I think even though it's like doesn't matter too much to the fans and stuff. Or I mean,
so that was the long con that Featherven played. Because think about it, right? I think when Featherven went off, wasn't that the one in like Tallahassee or something? So it was in America. He was popping off against Faker. Then he was like, right, don't have to do fuck all for the next 2 years. I'll just be over here for
No, it was at
it was at MSI.
Yeah.
Oh, MSI, okay, but not rivalry.
Yeah. It was the one. It was the last MSI before they fired Loco from TSM.
I mean, probably, yeah. Worked out well in clutch.
The only MSI that is. So you got there once.
But people still don't like want to lose. If you're like at this level, you're obviously like a really competitive person. So it matters to the players, but for like your legacy or whatever, it's like not super important. Yeah, I think everyone agrees. Yeah.
I've got to go now, so that's the end.
Okay. Well, Upset, thank you so much for being on. Duncan, thank you so much for doing the show as always. All right, don't hang up the call yet. I need to go to a Patreon page, and then we're good to go. All right, later, guys. That was an abrupt end to the show. But thank you to our gold Patreon supporters. William Hishon, Tobias Bernasconi, Icelandic C9 fan, and Bob Pounder 420. Without you guys, this show wouldn't be possible. And thank you so much for supporting the show. And thank you so much to all our supporters in Silver, Bronze, and Iron. Don't forget to check out the show on Patreon and support. There's also Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Like we're trying to be everywhere, so you guys can enjoy the show.